Welcome to Condal Cultures Talk. In today's globalized world, true leadership and professionalism go beyond skills and expertise. They require deep understanding and appreciation of different cultures. Every day we collaborate with people from diverse backgrounds, each of them bringing unique perspective and experiences. When we take time to learn about each other and appreciate our differences, we don't just create and improve our teamwork. We create a culture of respect, inclusion, and excellence. And by doing so, we pave the way for a more connected, collaborative, and thriving future. This is a campaign that will capture stories and cultural perspective of real people. Hello, Laila. Welcome to Condal Cultures Talk.
Thank you so much.
Can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Laila Al-Yousef. I'm design director at Say Studio. Very happy to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Laila, can you please tell me what is your cultural background?
Sure. So my father is from Dubai and my mother is American. I grew up in Dubai, but I spent quite a lot of time in the US as well as a child. So all of my summers were there, and then I had periods of time where we moved there for a little bit, as well as I did my last year of high school and university in the States. This was in different parts of the US. So that's kind of a mixture of me, and I'm also married to an Australian, so then we threw a whole other country into the mix. So I consider myself a very sort of global person.
Laila, how would you describe your culture in a few words? Well, multicultural.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's interesting actually because I think the UAE for me is quite rooted in hospitality and warmth and family and religion and all of these things. Family values are huge. Here, and I was raised with that very, very strong background, and I'm very close to my family here. I see them, we have this tradition where it was always on Fridays before, but we have this tradition that we get together once a week. In fact, all of my family live in one big compound together, and so we have these very close family ties. In the US, you would almost in some ways consider the US to be the polar opposite of the UAE in a lot of ways. I think it's more of an individualistic culture, so it's more about the individual and who they are and what their goals are, not as much of the kind of community basis for this. We have this hospitality aspect in the US, in the South as well. So I think that's a very big thing for me, about always being warm, inviting, making sure that whenever anybody comes to your house, you're always offering something to them. So there's some similarities, although there are definitely some differences between the cultures as well.
Fantastic. And Laila, you lead the team. You work also with a lot of people in the region. I'm sure you meet different cultural backgrounds, people and clients. What did you notice, your experiences working, leading the team as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So all of my relationships, really, if you think even from a child, I've been very exposed to lots of different cultures, lots of different countries. Growing up, as I said, I grew up here, so and I went to an international school as well. So we had 60, 70 different nationalities in our school. So for me, that was just what was normal, being exposed to that many different cultures and countries. Growing up, I've had to learn how to interface with lots of different people and lots of different backgrounds. In some ways, I would say that it's sort of like a Jekyll and Hyde kind of personality, in the sense that I would be, the Arab version of myself in certain environments, and then the American version of myself in certain environments. So I was raised with this awareness of people approaching each other and communicating in very different styles. That was just how I was raised and what it was normal for me. And I think in a lot of ways that's then continued on into my professional life, where I've been able to understand that different cultures would operate in slightly different ways. Of course, growing up and having the kind of school environment is different from a professional environment. And in addition to that, now being a leader in this environment, I think is an added kind of challenge. So in our particular workplace, we have, I think it's like 13 different, I'd have to check. We've got quite a diverse group of people in our office, and they all communicate to each other in different ways, and then they communicate with us in slightly different ways. So I think that's been part of my added learning that I wasn't necessarily as aware of, because, as I said, now going into more of a professional environment and a leader within that environment, you're interfacing with people in different ways, and there are cultures that just need to have different things within their environment when they're interacting with each other.
It looks like your exposure while you were growing up to very different, diverse cultures helped you and prepared you for to be a good leader in the Middle East environment.
Yeah, I think absolutely, because maybe you're more attuned to differences with personalities and differences in how people see things, and so you approach everybody not with just sort of a wide stroke of things. You're more aware of the nuances between what people need and how they interact with each other because of that. So, I can give you an example that we have certain people in our office who have very openly said to me that they come from a culture that's non-confrontational. They are not comfortable to raise any kind of concern, so they're more of the mindset of, we'll just get on with it. Even if we're unhappy to a degree with our environment, we'll just get on with it, and we're okay to do that. And although I have my Emirati heritage and I have my American heritage, as an individual I believe that I'm a very warm and inviting and open person. And I'm also a mother, so I think that kind of adds into that. And I actually want to know that everyone's happy and that everyone's okay. So when I can sense that there is anything in the office where people are feeling uncomfortable, I would like them to tell me that. I think it's important for people to feel comfortable in the environment that they're in. But with this particular culture, they've said to me that they're not comfortable talking about it. So we've had to find ways to make them a little bit just more comfortable to share, because I don't want them to be unhappy. So there's definitely that aspect of that. But even when it gets to our clients, for example, our clients all communicate in different ways. Of course they would, from different countries. So yes, as you said, just having that experience growing up has made me more aware of the nuances between people.
Well, it sounds like you definitely, you are closer to egalitarian, what they call egalitarian style of leadership. And it's kind of more open door policy, more connected with people, trying to be and blending as one of them with your team, giving them kind of opportunities for different decisions, to influence different decisions, rather than a kind of more of a hierarchical style. Absolutely. I don't know if that comes down to me as a person or my upbringing. So it's a question of like the nature versus nurture topic. But I think you're 100% right. That is where I feel most comfortable. And to be honest with you, to the degree that I don't actually even like the word boss, I hate that word. I don't like the word employee either. I think that we're all part of a team. I would much prefer to call someone my colleague or my friend at work or something like that, rather than to use that terminology. And I think even at our office, it's a practice that we put in place that we don't see ourselves, my business partner and I, as anybody different from anyone else within the team. And we like the fact that people feel like they can approach us about anything. We don't try to create layers in our company. It's just not our personality. Sounds like you've created a really nice culture to be.
We spend a lot of time talking about it in the office. We spend a lot of time trying to think of what is important to people. We do annual reviews and biannual reviews where we ask everybody within the team what is it that they're looking for within their own career and their own growth, and how can we help achieve that with them, because I think it's more of a partnership with the people that you have. I mean, you spend most of your time with these people, more time than you do at home, really, even in some ways. And so it's like a family, to make sure that everyone is happy in the environment that they're in.
So Laila, tell us please, how does your cultural background shapes your approach to building business relationship? How do you see that works here? What do you see from your cultural background? How do you do business?
Right. No, that's really interesting. So me as an individual, as I said, I feel like I've got this kind of warm, open approach to the way that I look at things. And I think that being here, the way that we interact with each other is quite heavily influenced by that. So if I think about the clients that we've had over the years, we've got clients that are all over the world, and we've built long-standing relationships with them. If I think of some clients, we've had engagements with them that have stretched over a decade. And the way that I am as an individual, and which is probably heavily influenced by my own background, is that I get to know the people, the clients that we've got on those projects. I could be able to tell you about their family. I've maybe interacted with them on a social level. We've done different things together as a group. We've united sort of our companies together and done social events together. And a lot of that for me is because I think that this is who we are and what we do on a day-to-day basis. And so why not connect with people and not just have this sort of, as you said, like interaction that's just based on tasks. It's more than that, because it's our everyday. It's not transactional in that sense for me at all. But having said that, I do think that a lot of it is heavily influenced by the individual themselves. So for example, if I think about the people who are sitting within our office, our culture is such that we are built on relationships, but I don't think that everyone in our office is comfortable with that to a degree, in the same way that maybe we are. I think that there are people who, they would much rather just keep like a distance between them and the client, and they don't see that level. So for me, and even with my business partner, and obviously we come from different cultures ourselves. I've got this Emirati American heritage. He's from the UK, but we still have this sort of shared approach to the way that we look at things. And now that we're having this conversation, it does make me wonder, what is the reason for that? Is it the fact that he's like that as an individual, or is it the fact that he's been influenced living in the UAE, that this is how a lot of us are interacting? And a lot of the, if you think of networking, and if you think of how we pick up projects, I remember even now my father does this. Every time he picks up the phone, there's like a 10-minute lead in to the question, which is all about, how are you? How's the family? How's this? How's that? I don't think that we have a very direct approach here in the UAE as a culture. Even with my family, when I send them messages, there's always a whole, how are you, how are you, how are you, how's this, is that? And then you get to the question. And that's that then carries on to a degree. It has to naturally. You have to be influenced by the way that you were raised. So that carries on to a degree with how I approach certain people, or at least I try to. And sometimes I see the American side kind of seeping in, because especially when I'm interacting with others that I know are American, there's somebody in our industry that comes to mind right now, and he's American. And when I send him a message, sometimes it's the question, and then I'm like, oh, and by the way, how are you? So I can see that even when I'm interfacing with different cultures, I do it, and that's a business relationship as well, but I do it in a slightly different way with different people, and he's not offended.
Okay, Laila, so based on your experience, can you please tell me, what advice would you give to a leader who is leading multicultural team? And then what advice would you give to someone young in their career, just starting, to blend in well and work in the cultures?
Sure. Well, for a leader, I think the most important thing is to just empower the people that are around you and treat people with respect. And respect is, I think it goes across cultures. So people feeling empowered and feeling that they're respected in their place and acknowledged for the work that they're doing, for me, that's quite universal. And that's important for people to grow within their careers and have a comfortable working environment. Maybe be attuned to the different cultures of who you've got within your business as well, to understand the dynamic of how they're interacting. Just being open and speaking to people, I think, is quite powerful. I think be hungry is what I always tell people who are just starting off in their career, and establish a work ethic. So for me, this is, I think talent is a great skill, or it's a great benefit to have if you're specifically talented within something, but I don't think it's everything. I think talent only takes you so far, and work ethic and being reliable is actually a lot more important. So a lot of that also really does come down to communication, because you've got to understand where you're going and what your goals are and what their goals are, and then just establish yourself as being somebody that they can rely on, and communicating that and what you need as an individual. We're actually going through something right now in the office where we're appointing a company that is going to do some trainings and leadership trainings for us as well. And the first step that they've mentioned to us is they want us to do this test, basically, where we can identify the different personalities that we have within our own team, because we all interact with each other in different ways. So for the leader or for the person who's coming into the office, understanding what you're working with and the environment that you're in and what people need and what you feel like you need, and then communicating that, I think, is really important.
Thank you so much, Laila, for coming and sharing your culture with us. It was really interesting to hear about Say Studio, and we hope to work with you and see you more.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this experience. I think it's such an interesting topic, and I hope that we get to learn so much from each other living in this environment, how we can continue to interact with each other and establish successful relationships. So I really appreciate today.
Thank you, and hope you all enjoyed and learned a lot of interesting insights into leadership and culture.